Today we are gonna look at every single location of the hit game Deltarune to determine how difficult would it be to actually survive in every area of the game, with this tier list going from completely safe to total death. Hometown looks like a very normal and safe place to be in. It's located in the woods and its population isn't very large. In real life, this will be equal to living in the rural areas or small cities, where everybody knows basically everyone. My actual city isn't very large, but definitely way bigger than hometown, so I can't resonate enough with Chris's environment. The town hides a very deep secret, that being the fact that there's literally a random fountain of darkness in the closet of the school. The town is definitely hiding something mysterious, but on surface level it's a very chill town, thanks to Officer Undyne and their efforts, so I will give this an S tier. This is the first location we see when we enter the Dark World. It's a vast land empty of life. The only things found here are the wobbles, and the few puzzles you find in your path. Being the first location of the Dark World, its only purpose is to create a mysterious and intimidating feeling upon entering. Once you go too far, the wobbles also start attacking you, making this whole area a lot less safer than it could be. With that being said, there is literally nothing to eat or anything to revive with really, not even moss. Not to mention you might get attacked from above, just like Lancer does when we enter, so this one is definitely going the D tier. Once we enter Castletown, the location is mostly empty, still inhabited by the people who will come later. Only Ralse is there to wait for us, so this location doesn't really get any points for being very great on resources or protection, but it is safer than the previous and still gets you covered just in case. Of course this can be a permanent solution, but still a decent one since we populate it. However, Lancer is still able to fight you, but only because the door was open, so I guess I'll have to go with B tier for now. Despite the name being very promising and the music being an insane vibe, this land is filled with mercenaries and guards to protect the kingdom. Us being the enemy makes this place harder to consider livable. However, the enemies we face here are not very strong and they can easily be beaten by either fighting or convincing them to stop. The fields are also full of resources and food that might be very helpful for a long-term permanence. This land is also filled with friendly people who can be trusted, so even though the enemies might scare you at first, it turns out dealing with them might be a lot easier than expected. The Field of Hopes and Dreams goes in the A tier. Looking at the Great Board superficially, you wouldn't think it's a dangerous place, but there are literally platforms teleporting you back if you step on them, which is very inconvenient when you have to survive. The board is also habitated by the Pawnmans, who are aggressive. Although they aren't too strong, they are still dangerous to deal with. Not to mention you might also encounter some very powerful mini-boss like K-Round. Judging from the background, the Great Board looks very empty, and a few things there are against you, so I will consider this area as C tier. The forest is a greatly varied area of the game. You encounter so many people and enemies depending on the area. There are a lot of paths to take that you might find yourself stuck in a maze, even though that's not the worst part since you can still be attacked by some dancing figures or by Bloxer. But there's also a lot of friendly NPCs that make up for the few dangers that you might face. To me, the only way to get jumped is to end up in the wrong area. Since most of this land is safe, you can just avoid the traps and just hang out in the cool parts of the forest. Just like the Field of Hopes and Dreams, this area deserves the A tier. Castle is the most defended area of the chapter. On the entrance you already encounter the fierce guards, and every single floor is full of traps and more guards. Although most of them look like they don't really care, just doing their own thing. But then you encounter someone, Rule's Card. This is the worst part of Castle. Dealing with that puzzle maker will probably be your death sentence. You can also visit the prison and Jevil's prisons though. There's not really a reason for you to do so in the first place, but whatever. But then after speedrunning the first 3 floors, you get to the last one, where you can socialize with Rule's Card again in his shop. I mean, Card Castle is goated, but to survive there would be very hard being the literal headquarters of Chaos King. So yeah, not very safe, not gonna lie. Z tier. In chapter 2, Castletown becomes very populated with all the friends we've made. In this chapter the town is completely safe. Unlike chapter 1, Lancer is not our enemy and the town is safe. There's a lot of shops and stuff to live by. Not only that, but Chris and Susie also get their own rooms here. So this one I'm gonna consider as a true S tier. Upon entering the dark world in the library, we don't take long to meet Queen and our first cyber enemies. The enemies of the cyber world are more dangerous than the ones in the first chapter, as these ones are actually brainwashed with wires, while in chapter 1 they had free will, so they didn't care to fight as much. After sliding down, we arrive at the actual cyber world, where there's again a lot of brainwashed enemies. Dealing with them is not too hard, but they can definitely hurt you a lot. So cyber world feels very B tier to me. In Cyberfield we find a few puzzles and force fields, but they are actually pretty damn easy. Apart from the common enemies, there's also the Sweet Cup and Cakes band that keep coming back to fight and stuff, but they don't actually do any real harm. We can even go to their shop at one point to buy and sell stuff. Of course, at the end of Cyberfield there's the fight with Birdley. I mean, even if we really have to fight him, he's not too strong, so I wouldn't give him too much credit. There's also the area with the Viro Coons shooting at you at one point, and that's very dangerous too. All in all, Cyberfield sounds very similar to Cyberworld, but given the various risks between the music band, the shooting enemies, puzzles, and Birdley, I think this is actually riskier than the Cyberworld, so this one deserves the C tier. We enter Cyber City by falling in the garbage dump, which by itself isn't very dangerous, but not very friendly either. After splitting with the team, we can actually start visiting the city's side paths, where we can encounter a few enemies, but worst of all, after meeting Noelle and Queen again, Birdley comes, making this place go to the Z tier. Just kidding. While visiting the city, we find a lot of unavoidable enemies who make the city very inconvenient to pass through. Apart from the subplot with Queen and Birdley, we can go to the mouse part of the city with different mice and puzzles and mice enemies. We can go on to the mouse part of the city with different mice puzzles and mice enemies. Let's not underestimate the threat mice pose. They are actually tough to spare. After that, we have another fight with none other than Birdley himself again. Look, I don't wanna say it's easy, but there's definitely some boundaries. Not long after, we get in the car with Queen, and while cruising the traffic, we find ourselves stuck in it, and that's when we finally meet him. Spamton is not here to actually pose us to any harm, but we still get in a battle with him to make a great deal. He will actually heal you by just pressing F1, so we can't actually consider Spamton that dangerous for now. After making the deal, we can move forward with Queen and Noelle, until we finally meet again with the team. At that point, basically nothing can hurt you. It's just a matter of puzzles and force fields to go over, except for that one time where the mice push again. Cyber City is very big and varied. More often than not, you can get pushed by a lot of different enemies, and you constantly have to solve puzzles to proceed, not to mention the whole traffic areas and Queen making things explode. So Cyber City, being very risky, will go to the C tier. Once we reach Queen's mansion, we get trapped in our custom-made rooms. When breaking free, there's only a few puzzles separating us from entering Pandora Palace. Queen's mansion is full of guards and traps to go through, which by default make the place very dangerous. After beating everything, we enter the Acid River segment with Ralsei. In real life, this would be too dangerous to even try to go near the acid, but here we can cruise the river with no problems, until we meet the one and only Rules card. His battle isn't that hard, but more like a Mario inconvenience. After finishing the Acid River, we have the whole section of character development between Susie and Noelle, which of course is completely safe. After meeting Susie again, we can continue as we meet a new very strong enemy named Wire, and once we reach the top of the mansion, we find Queen, who has also wired Birdley. Here we fight one of our final battles, with one of the best tracks you'll ever hear. We can move to the final battle, which is the most dangerous thing you'll find in the whole chapter, apart from Spamton NEO. I mean, given all the dangers and enemies of her mansion, I think it definitely deserves the lowest point of D tier. The Dark World in chapter 3 is the introduction segment before we get to TV World. This is a pretty short and mostly empty area, just like the very first area of chapter 1. The landscape feels lifeless and the background is filled with the wind's howl and sometimes the wobbles moving. So this area is pretty much inhabitable, there's nothing you can do about it. There are no real dangers though, so I'll just give it a D tier. After going through the first round of minigames, we get to the green room, where you can chill and explore a bit. You can go anywhere and it's fine. There are no enemies to attack you, except two, for one. Yeah, the water cooler is the only enemy you can encounter while in the green room. Apart from it, you can interact with a lot of people, but since it's break time area, nothing is dangerous. A tier. Once we escape Tenna's board, we're off to proceed in the TV world, which is full of enemies, traps and puzzles. Not all enemies in this place are easy to deal with. There are some tough ones like the water cooler, but a lot of enemies are also just attacking you for the orders of Tenna, so not everyone is a threat here either. And then there's Rules card, so yeah, that's the TV world pretty much. It's going the C tier. Cold Place is the last area you enter in this chapter. A vast land of snow covers the background alongside the dark fountain. Here we have the final boss with Tenna. Apart from the boss battle, the whole location is impossible to live in, of course. Not to mention what happens next. Yeah, I don't think this place is very hospitable, is it? Z tier. Castletown has never been this goated. When entering at the start of chapter 4 we are met with a lot of new people and rooms. This place has become so goated it's insane. There's even the new TV World room and Ralsei's room, S tier. This is part of hometown, but I don't care. It's a new location and the house is fire. This looks like your rich friend's house claiming he's not rich. There are a lot of rooms and stuff. Could definitely live here forever, S tier. The first area of the church dark world follows a similar pattern of the previous chapters. You can find puzzles, NPCs and enemies that follow the same path. There are a few enemies but definitely not as many as in Cyberworld. Of course there are the good old puzzles, but this time with the piano. You also meet Gerso in this area, so this place automatically becomes 200% safer. Also a lot of rooms can be very dark at times. Overall not a huge problem, but still the Dark Sanctuary isn't a chill place to stay in. C tier. The library is our safe place. With Gerson grinding here, there is nothing to worry about when you enter the library. It's a recurring place while you go on with the chapter and always a resting one, S tier. The second sanctuary is no joke, especially compared to the first one. There are more enemies and harder puzzles in this place. Not to mention the new mechanic of climbing, and of course, one of the most stressful fights in the game. There's no way I'm surviving the second sanctuary, I'm not gonna lie. Given all the new risk and stuff, I'll put the second sanctuary in D tier. If you thought we were done with the second sanctuary, wait till you hear about the third. This place is pure death, with new enemies of the dark, towers to climb, and the roaring night at full swing to kill you. The obstacles you have to face in the last sanctuary are unprecedented compared to the previous two. Not to mention the fight with the Titan, which will easily bring this all the way down our list. But still, the third sanctuary, it's over, Z tier. We have completed the safety tier list. I mean, it looks like the game draws a clear line between places where you can chill and the dangerous ones. We've got a lot of S tiers and many Z tiers, so I hope you enjoyed, and if you have anything to say, go in the comments. See ya.